Hey guys, Mr. Tweet again. So I just went over incentives with you guys a few minutes ago, and you've watched some video clips that kind of go over incentives. Now, what I'm going to have you guys do, or now what I want to go over with you guys is perverse incentives. So this is like a subcategory or a special category of incentives. And a perverse incentive is an incentive that backfires so that me as the incentive giver, I'm trying to kind of push you one way, but my incentive actually pushes you the other way, right? And in the definition, I told you that it's sometimes called the Cobra Effect or the rat effect. Um, that's by and large, economists are going to call it perverse incentives. But the Cobra Effect or rat effect reminds us of some examples of this. So that name Cobra Effect comes from colonial England, when England had colonized India. And there was this problem that a lot of the Indians were dying from cobra bites, and so the English wanted to try to stop this, and so they wanted to get rid of cobras, right? And so what they did was they started paying the locals for every dead cobra that they would bring to them, right? So there's like a bounty placed on these cobras. Well, guess what happened, right? Their goal, again, is to reduce the cobra population. Well, what happened was people started capturing cobras, but rather than killing them and turning them in, they started breeding them so that they could make baby cobras, which they could then kill and sell to the British, right? So this became like a way for locals in India to actually earn a living, was that they could raise cobras and sell the dead cobra, killing some of them and keeping some of them to reproduce, so that they could turn them in for the bounty and make money off of the British colonizers, right? Well, when England figured out what was happening, they were like, fine, we're not going to pay for cobras anymore. Guess what the Indians did? They released the cobras, and the cobra population increased, didn't decrease. Perverse incentive. The British wanted to reduce the cobra population. They got the opposite of what they wanted. They got more cobras. A similar thing happened with France and Vietnam when they were colonizing Vietnam, and they wanted to try to reduce the rat population. In France, they offered to pay a bounty for rat tails. And so you can imagine what happened. People in Vietnam started setting traps to catch rats. They would cut off their tails and then set the rats free so that the rats could reproduce and make more rats, which they could then catch future generations, keep, cutting off the tail, the whole thing. Because the French didn't want a whole big pile of dead rats. They just, the tails as proof that somebody had killed one. And so it ended up causing the rat population to increase rather than decrease, because now the natives had, in Vietnam, had an incentive to, rather than kill rats, they had an incentive to capture them and cut off their tails and then let them go free to continue reproducing. So again, another example of a perverse incentive where you get the opposite of what was intended. So I have a couple articles for you to read on some examples of perverse incentives, and then an assignment for you guys to do eventually. All right, so take care. See you in a few.